people get all obsessed. I don't know if I can, what words I can say on the podcast, but people get obsessed about things related to sexuality and related to like all these wants and desires there, and then related to like fulfilling certain needs and all of this stuff. And like romantic relationship can feel like really centered in like what I want sometimes. And like the juiciness that is in romantic relationship when you're like holding the possibility for the highest and best for both people is like mind-blowing.
All right, welcome back once again to the Rock Your Gift podcast, where we operate on the intersection between business, personal growth, and creativity. And today I have a great guest, great friend of mine. Her name is Carrie Margaret. She is a mother. She is a coach. She is a speaker, and she is an incredible soul that brings so much light into this world. And I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Sean. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I want to start off with just giving a little context. When we met through a mutual friend, but from the beginning of us meeting, there was this connection. There was this like deeper conversations that we were always able to have. And I remember one thing about you is that you're always very perceptive. Like you seem to be somebody that like you would acknowledge others and myself. You were listening well, and you were always like very much like aware of things kind of on a deeper level than I see a lot of people. Like, I just want to know kind of how would you describe yourself, and like, how do you think that you became this way? Like, you've always been that way, or is it something that you went through that kind of shifted you?
Well, I think that's a great question. And I love that we're starting with that, in Rock Your Gift, because I feel like so many of us aren't really taught, let's just say culturally taught, to acknowledge our own gifts. And I think that there's a really interesting thing related to gifts. I think that this is something that's always been an area that came somewhat natural to me, and an area of like also real interests and, fascination. Like I love connection. I love seeing people. I love the feeling of being seen. Really my interest in connection really is, I think, started, not that I could vocalize this when I was a child, but started as a spiritual connection, that I always felt connected to something greater than myself, and always had a sense of that even when I was like really small. And for me, it's just a natural extension, of that connection to something greater. So, you could call that God, you could call that the universe, you could call that, so many religions really point to the same thing. So, a connection to that really, I think, brought me stronger into connecting with people. And, because I think we're here to, see each other and to be seen and to express ourselves. And I think that connections really help people become more of who they're meant to be. And as everybody's like stepping into more of who they're meant to be and rocking their gift, then I think there's just this natural, sort of evolution that happens, even though we're sometimes not encouraged to do that. There's this natural evolution that happens, that great and creative things just start to happen from that space.
I love that. And I think that for me, relationships and connection has always been central, because I have such an amazing family, and I have just amazing parents and brother, sister, like, but sometimes I forget about it. It becomes like sort of background to me. And it's like the water that I swim in. So when I meet people like you that bring back that awareness of like connection and relationship, and giving it more reverence, it's almost like out of sight, out of mind. And I have to kind of bring myself back into more awareness of how much it matters. So what else can you share about like relationships in your life, or how relationships have, shaped who you've become, and why you are so connected to that?
Well, yeah, I love the word reverence that you brought up. That's one of my favorite words, actually. I think it's something that, like, in modern life, we don't think about that much. But if we just think about, like, I love words, and we just kind of think of the weight of that word, reverence. I think it's a pretty special word to put in relationship to connections and relationships. And I, like yourself, like, I came from a really amazing family. I have this like huge Irish Catholic, like hysterically funny, very connected family on, like, on one side. On another side, I have my family is Scandinavian, Norwegian, and, like, in the Midwest, and still connected to those Scandinavian roots. And in being connected to those Scandinavian roots, they're also really connected to the family and to community and all of this. So I did come from all of that. And I think that there is, how do I want to word this? Is, like, they're gifts that, they're not only gifts that we have, individually, but they're gifts that we're given. And I think that's one of the big gifts that I was given and that you were given. And I think that everybody's path is different in terms of our experiences. And just, like, even if some of the people who are listening didn't come from that type of family experience, the value in the experience that they bring is valuable. And since I had that kind of experience, it did kind of weave into the tapestry of who I am. And for me, I'm just going back to the question related to connection and relationships and everything. And they always have had a level of weight for me, because, really honestly, I get so much satisfaction from them. I think relationships are almost, it's funny. I really, I do go into the kind of spiritual thing quite frequently. But the really interesting thing about spirituality and spiritual texts is that as you like move through and grow in a journey with spiritual texts, you'll find that there are deeper and deeper layers of what you're able to understand. So if you're reading any kind of ancient texts, there things will evolve over time in terms of the depth and the layers that you can get into and the awareness that you have, and actually the feelings that you can have reading them. And I think that relationships are somewhat similar, that like there are so many different layers that you can have in a relationship, like in a family relationship, with your parents or with your brothers or sisters, if you have brothers or sisters, or long-term friends. There, it's a living and growing space. And there are a whole lot of different layers that you can experience as you grow and evolve. Like, every time that you grow and evolve and you become a new version of you, because growth is what we're here to do, whether or not we always realize it, you have the opportunity to have a new relationship with everybody around you, and the space in between you and somebody else changes and evolves. So it's not like this kind of, like, I think that sometimes, like, culturally, we can get into this idea that we have like a fixed idea about somebody, but people aren't fixed. They're always changing and evolving. And so are relationships. So hopefully that landed in terms of the analogy between, like, spiritual texts and relationships. But really, there are all of these layers that you can find. And I think it is kind of, it's similar to, let me bring something out into the world that might be more resonant to other people besides spiritual texts. Like, if you're building a skill, there are going to be different levels of understanding as you build that skill, like in speaking. All right. You're going to start to be able to pay attention and almost dance with it in a different way because you have a different understanding. It is the same way with relationships. There are deeper and deeper layers that you can experience with people. So I just find that, like, so enriching and such a beautiful part of life. That's really where sort of my fascination with relationships comes from.
Are you aware that that perspective that you have on that is rare? That's like not common?
Um, I guess, well, I guess in anything that's related to either gift or fascination, that it wouldn't be common, but it's not something that I think about, you know. It's not something that um yeah, so I guess I have a level of awareness, but it's not something that is in my mind a lot.
For me, because I'm in a lot of coaching worlds and
Mm,
circles, right? There's a lot of relationship coaches and there's a lot of all these different
mm,
kind of experts. But I think that it's really rare when I connect with people who are like really putting relationship as
mm,
like a central theme in their life.
mm,
Maybe it's because it's just not something that I think about. But I mean, and I don't mean to say like I don't have reverence for my relationships. It's just that I think that, like I said, it's very family related, and I don't take it into like I love my friends and
mm,
I love people like in
mm,
general. Like I've always enjoyed going to a party or being around people. Like when I'm the most lit up when I'm in a room where like I have a lot of people that like I have a
mm.
connection with. It's a palpable elevation of my like purpose and like
Yeah,
my calling like
yeah.
goes online really
Mm,
strong when I'm in those spaces. So
mm,
it's clear to me that like relationships and connections are is a huge part of like who I am.
mm,
But I think that I don't put enough, well, I don't want to shame myself for it, but I do admire people like yourself that make it, at least this is how I perceive you, that relationships is just so meaningful and just so much like the level of care for relationships that I see you have is similar to how I might have that around creativity or art,
mm,
or you know, innovation and you know, maybe business growth or things that I want to get better at. Like I'm focused on it all the time. Like I could have conversations about it all the day, all the time. But with relationships is a way in which I think that I hold back. You know, it's, one thing I'm very present to right now is that when I work, you know, at my desk and I'm working hard throughout the day and usually serving clients,
yeah.
and then my son, my two boys, and Logan, my youngest son, he is downstairs,
Mm,
and he's usually downstairs like starting around 2:30 when they get back from school. And my other son goes to like karate and stuff, so
mm,
it's like she's gone, my wife, and it's just Logan downstairs. So he's all on his own,
mm,
and then I am really too busy. Like, and
mm,
he knows at this point barely even comes up because he's just like, I'm not going to pay attention to him during
mm,
my workday. But even when the workday's done,
mm,
I don't have the energy for him. I don't have the energy to like give anymore because I'm so depleted from like all the
mm,
giving that I do in a day. And I was noticing in the last couple days, like he's just like he doesn't even try to engage with me
mm,
because he's like, I don't know what to do with dad.
mm,
And then like, and also what's interesting is that Logan is like my wife, and that both of them, I think they really like love language, or they really like need a lot of is quality time.
mm,
And I've always had this conversation with them, with my wife first, and then, you know, my sons, because my other son, Jaden, isn't like that. He's maybe more like me. But it's like, what do you mean quality time? Like, what is
mm,
quality time? Like, I'm here with you now.
mm,
It's like, but that's not quality time. It's like, okay, what is quality time, you know? So I think for me, like, I feel that there's another level of how I could bring
mm,
more presence and more care to relationships. But in order to do it, it's like I would need to, I don't want to say sacrifice, but I would need to like be uncomfortable
mm,
in a lot of cases. I think for me, like there's a discomfort around, like I'm good at certain times to like have like face-to-face conversation, but I notice a lot where it's like I don't want to call this friend. I don't really want to make space for these people in my
mm,
life. Usually it's because my business kind of takes up all my energy, but there's another piece, like I don't want to sit sometimes and have these deeper conversations, or not have deeper conversations, try to engage my wife and bring stuff out of her. It feels like work. It feels like I just don't, and I feel like I'm not giving enough in those relationships, and yet I feel stuck. Like I don't know how, because it just feels so like I don't have enough to give somehow.
Oh, thank you so much for going there.
Yeah.
I think what you just did was really brave because, we're here on your podcast and there's a level of vulnerability. It's one of the things I love about you is your ability to go into places and share vulnerability, especially as a man. I think it's something that is noteworthy, and really good, healthy, masculine modeling, what I would say. And so can we go there a little bit?
I'm 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jaden is more like you and Logan is more like his mom. And there are a whole lot of things going on in this. And the first thing that I want to speak to is, as I was listening to you talk, I heard you say that, you're giving so much in your business, which you do. And then you feel really depleted at the end of the day, and it's almost like you don't have more to give. And then you talked about the relationship with your family, and then the relationship with friends and others. And I want to speak to the relationship with friends and others first, and then go into the family relationship, because I think it's really important to listen to ourselves and to see what things are in resonance. And sometimes with the relationships like outside of family, I want to separate the two, but outside of family and these friends, and you don't really feel like having this deep conversation or talking to them. Like, I think that our relationships, especially in community, that are the closer relationships that we're going deeper with, like they should feel really nourishing. Mm-hmm. And they should feel like at the end of, now you might be somebody who, there's so many things that we could talk about. Like we could have a 3-hour conversation about this, but you might be somebody who needs like a lot of alone time to replenish and restore. So that, could also go along with what I'm saying. And I think that with these particular relationships that we have, like outside of our family system, it's really okay to be very discerning and think about like, how do I feel when I'm with this person? Yeah. Like, do I feel uplifted? Do I feel energized? Do I feel nourished? And people's energies are going to be different. Okay. Yeah. So like you might find with somebody like, I'll just talk about me. Like, I feel like in general, if I have awareness about this, I have fairly nourishing energy, so that like people might experience that a lot, but like they might not experience as much, even though I love this side. I mean, I love adventures in life. They might not find that like I am like the wing girl who like goes to do like a zillion different adventures. It's just a different energy, right? And I love adventures. So if we meet out in the world and we end up being friends, like I want to have the adventures, but it's just not the natural energy that I'm bringing. I'm bringing a lot of that nourishing energy. So with your friends, you're going to find that people bring different energies, and some people are in resonance and some people aren't, and some people are aligned and some people aren't. And it's not about rejection. It's not about making things right or wrong. It really is about alignment. It really is about resonance. And that is going to shift throughout the course of your entire life. So like sometimes even with super close friends, you might need more distance for a period of time. So like just give yourself a hall pass on that. Like just really I use words a lot like be gentle with yourself. That's the kind of language that I find to be really helpful. There are, if we were like sitting in a, in a coaching kind of conversation, I might kind of see what are the words that are the most resonant for you. But right now I'm just going to use, for the sake of the podcast, I'm going to use the words that are really resonant with me. So like kind of being gentle with yourself, giving yourself a hall pass, and like not worrying about that, like just trust your gut in terms of that. And if people replenish you or whatever replenishes you, like go with what replenishes you. When it comes to family systems, they're entirely different relationships than relationships with friends and family. Even though we can have like relationships outside of family that are so strong and meaningful, there are so many other layers going on there. And like the short and sweet answer that I want to say to the audience, as well as addressing to everything going on right here, is like really making the intention to do the best that you can with the situation is enough. Like start with that. Like start with like an incremental change in terms of things, or like maybe change is even a strong word, like an incremental intention, just like just a little bit, if it could shift just a little bit, because like with family relationships, it's really important to release layers of like guilt and shame and all these heavy emotions. At the end of our life, we're going to release them anyways. Might as well start practicing releasing them right now and being in a space where we can feel a little bit lighter. And like getting into this in this family relationship, like your sons want a relationship with you. Like, guaranteed they want a relationship with you. There are some, for the audience, there are some children that run into challenge with their parents, with like highly abusive parents, with really challenging parents. That's a whole nother conversation. And almost in a podcast or anything, it's almost, I would want the viewers to like, don't go to the extremes here. Don't think about like these extreme situations, because for the purpose of this conversation, they're not that useful, right? In general, especially knowing you and knowing your kids and being around your family, like your boys want a relationship with you. You are a central person in their lives. And so you just wanting to make little incremental intentions for more connection, like it has a huge impact, Sean. Like, I'm not even talking about like, oh, let me try to be like, like if we're talking about revenue, I want to make 100 times my revenue from last year. I'm not even talking about these huge goals. When it comes to connection, you can start to make these incremental changes of like, what would even 1%, what would 5%, what would 12% feel like in terms of more connection? And that is going to pay off so much in terms of the emotional deposits that you're giving to your kids. Just that like slight intention. And like, so with Logan, for example, if he's a kid that likes quality time, like we could brainstorm here what that might look like, but one thing that it could look like, and maybe we could do that in a minute, I don't know where we are timing wise, but one thing that might look like is like even, sitting down and watching something funny together or something like that. Like something that could feel like it's not that hands-on. Sometimes we think we need to make these huge actions.
Yeah.
It's not that hands-on, but it's actually, we can be restoring and replenishing while we're connecting and doing quality time. So it actually can be so much easier than the story than we make in our head to have like 5% more connection with somebody. And in those family relationships, that 5% more connection, it has like, it's like compound interest, for people who love like finances and they were like the early savers and they got into compound interest and they see these like incremental gains over time. It is that way with the relationship with our children. Yeah, that's like the first thing that I would say there. So do you want to go there in terms of brainstorming something like what that could possibly look like?
Yeah, I mean, totally. I think it just bringing up for me that it's just a really, like, it's what I was sensing. It's like a catch-22 because I'm aware that I need to show up more for both my wife and my sons, both sons, really. My older son is so busy, so it's easy to sort of justify not putting too much there because he's like karate to this to that, and he's barely home. But doesn't excuse it, but it's easier. And for me, I feel like I really do need to make some incremental steps. And so, yeah, I'm totally open to that. And I think like, yeah, watching something funny is a good example of something. A lot of times, he'll want to watch these cartoons, which I have like zero, negative, 100 interest in. And so I'm like, I want to sit down and watch that. But what if it was something that we could find that was fun for both of us, But yeah, what else you got for me?
So, so what else do you think could be like a possibility in terms of, I can give you some more, but I just want to, I want to be with you for a minute here and can I, let me let you talk. And then I want to share another piece.
I feel like the thing is for him, as much as possible, if we can be kind of face to face.
Yeah.
And like, I notice like when I help him with his homework, like he really struggles right now with his homework. He just doesn't have the discipline to follow through. But like, I could sense that just me sitting there with him, it like brings it all together. It's like he gets the connection with me, and you know, he gets to get his homework done. And it's one of those things that I would call uncomfortable, and that like I don't really, it sounds kind of selfish that I don't want to be there, but I don't want to be there. If I'm really being honest, I don't want to be doing that homework. I guess I'm stuck in this like, I'm either productive or like I want to do what I want to do kind of like paradigm. But I do sense that like, yes, there's some times where we watch something and we're side to side, like viewing something out here where there's quality happening there.
Yeah.
And we're like under the blanket kind of just watching, and we're maybe laughing, or we have a little camaraderie. But I think what I need to do is something that brings us face to face, that doesn't feel like I'm pushing myself too hard. And I don't know what that would be.
Yeah. So one thing that I want to add here, and there are a lot of different layers of things going on, but one thing that I want to add is like, well, the viewers might not know this yet, but so like I'm currently a single parent. So I have 3 kids. Obviously 3 different ages. And my marriage ended about 10 years ago. And for most of that time, in the 10 years, well, I've dated, that's not what this is about, but I haven't introduced another partner into my kids' lives. So it's been like me and the kids, right? And so there is a level of, for lack of a better word, heaviness that goes with like being single responsibility household, right. Or exhaustion or different things like that. So one of the things that I learned, and I think is useful to all parents, is like, how can I make this a little bit easier? So there's always a way to make things easier. In our head, there's not. Like in our head, I'm not a person that's anti-ego, anti-mental, anti-head. There's actually a lot of beauty here. But in our head, it's so easy to get into like, oh, this is not what I want to do, or I'm exhausted, or I need to refill, or all of these things. There's so many different ways to make it easier. Whether it is like having a kid work on a homework while you're like, I'm a meditator. I like guided meditations. I'll like put on a guided meditation, listen to a guided meditation, stop it if I need to help them with the homework, but I'm sitting right there listening to my guided meditations. Like I do a lot of things to pour love into myself and nourish myself. Meditation is one of them, and to feel connected. It could be like, having a nourishing snack, sitting down and like eating while the kid does the homework. It could be, there's this gold for me sitting right here in this relationship, because Logan needs structure and discipline, and you're one of the most structured, disciplined people that I know. So like one of the things that he needs is one of the things that you're most able to give to other people. And just even being around you bring a lot of structure and discipline. So it's like actually one of the gifts that you have beyond, because everybody's a multifaceted person, and I've known you long enough to see all these different sides of you, and you have a lot of that. So that there is like, part of it can even be like sometimes in moments of exhaustion, like, wow, like I get to give him this gift because I have this in me. Like I can help him with this structure and discipline, and like that can be part of my legacy, beyond Archer Gift and all this amazing work that you do on the world with people and the art and all of that. Like part of your legacy can be like sharing these beautiful parts of yourself, and one of them is structure and discipline. So that might be a story that resonates with you, or it might not, and it might be something that kind of, I find sometimes things like this, it's like people will tell me something like this or say something because it's not even necessarily me. Sometimes it's like the light of the creator just moving through me, or source moving through me to pass on a beautiful message to you or somebody else. I think that's a lot of what coaching can be is I don't love the word channeling, but for lack of a better word, like letting this thing flow through you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether or not that lands exactly right now, it's like that could be something that lands a few weeks from now or a few years from now or later on. I find that that is sometimes how these messages land. But I do want to say that that is another way to look at it, that
Mm-hmm.
like part of legacy is like we're here to share gifts, and it's not just with the outside world. It's a lot of times um, we share that the most with the people that are closest to us, because they're going to be picking up on the things anyways. So we have the greatest opportunity to have the greatest impact with the people right around us. I mean, just like everybody, I think everybody's aware of that saying of like, be aware of the 5 people that are the closest to you because they're going to have the largest influence. So that thing of like kind of having a conscious influence is something, while in some senses, sometimes it can almost feel exhausting in the beginning, but over time can create more momentum and be something that brings a lot of joy and fulfillment and pride, and like part of the way that you know, put your stamp out into the world or share your gifts.
I think that's great. I notice a lot where it's really about kind of habits and also like when, let's just say as an example, like if you project, like let's say you're working and it's getting around 4 p.m. and you've been like, doing like deep work with clients or whatever, and you're focused on the computer on some project, and then you're like projecting like, okay, when this is over, like I'm picturing myself like having a drink, watching the Laker game, and like kind of projecting this is like what freedom looks like to me, and I'm just excited about that, right? So then when you get off and your son wants to spend time with you and the thing you projected is like in conflict with that present moment, it's like, oh, I'm not getting what I want. Like I wanted to watch the Laker game and have a drink, but instead I'm like, feeling like bad because I don't really want to spend time with my son, but he wants to spend time with me, right? And I think that it's like, instead of what I'm saying is that when you're talking about putting your stamp in the world, is that like I can shift from projecting that as an example into projecting that I'm gonna have this like really cool like moment with my son, right? Like, what if that is the thing that I'm looking forward to after I get off work, right? Like that would be a huge difference in like what happens when I come downstairs if that was the case. And if it does start to become something that, a lot of times things that I think don't fuel me, they change over time, and I find that I can find fuel in them. Like, and so I think that it's not about like doing what my son wants and not what I want, but finding that middle ground between what could be something that we benefit or bring both of us joy and serve both of us. And I think I can get into that, and I can start to think about like, not just think about, but act from that place, because I do think like this is something that he deserves. And I think too much time is passing, and we have an opportunity. And that opportunity is that one of my sons is home, like, and I'm only the only person home besides him for several hours, almost every single day of the week. And if we compound that over a year, that was like 10 months, or whatever, over a certain period of time, like that was 10 weeks or whatever. It was a big chunk of time that could have been used to deepen our relationship, that instead I was absent because I was too tired. I'll probably regret that, because it won't always be a time that I'm going to be with him like this. So it matters to me, and it's helpful for me to start to open up to like, just how about instead of a drink, it's my son is the thing that I connect to. You know what I mean? And like move the habit from like some like maybe even not so healthy or not so great thing into something that actually is nourishing for everybody and like grows the family more. Is like, it is uncomfortable in the sense of like anytime moving a new habit, new direction is uncomfortable. But once you start moving that groove in that direction, it's no longer uncomfortable because it becomes a new habit. So that's what's coming up for me around that. At least that's the vision that I'm seeing coming through.
Yeah, I love that. And like on the other side of that, there's a whole new experience. And that, my I'm from the East Coast, and Massachusetts. My whole family's really into the Celtics. But like Celtics are like a major deal. Talking about basketball,
Yeah.
major deal. It's like my dad goes to Celtics games with like anybody who wants to go with him. So it's like you talked about the Lakers. Like even if like he doesn't necessarily want to like, he's not as into baseball, there is a whole world of culture around sports, and
Right.
where families sharing experiences through sports.
Yeah.
So there can be a whole nother world on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Even if that ends up being like this.
Sometimes he does watch the game with me, which is cool.
Yeah, like part of the vision, like there's so many ways that vision can evolve, and there's so many ways to make it. I know that you talked about uncomfortability. I believe in that sometimes like it's important to move through the uncomfortability, and then there are also micro steps of mixing the two. Like if you need time, like I think it's a pretty masculine thing to need time to like, after putting in so much effort to like experience that level of freedom and liberation. And that could be like, Alison Armstrong is so brilliant about this when she talks about relationships between men and women, and like making sure that with women, she teaches women to make sure that you allow like the important men in your life to have decompression time before engagement. So it could be like some decompression time, and then time with your son.
Not just like zone out for the next 4 hours.
Yeah. And so that you have that time. And with the drink, I mean, this is, everybody, I have this huge Irish Catholic family. I don't drink. Everybody in the family drinks. I don't think that there's a problem. I'm not somebody who has a problem with like a parent having a drink hanging out with their kid,
Yeah.
So, there are different ways that you can build that vision.
That's so good. I love this. That was so great. I'm so glad we went there. It's exactly what I love to do on this podcast. So we have about 8 more minutes. I want to ask you I want to bring up something that I think is really important to bring up while we're here, which is the thing that I learned from you that I never had learned before, that was really a breakthrough for me. Was something you were talking about with your relationship with your ex, and how you changed your perception of him, and that changed the relationship. Like, and it was the first time that I'd ever thought about quantum physics in that way, right? Where we can where by simply observing this thing, and I never thought about it in relationship. I always thought about it in, I guess, anything other than relationship, like, how do I cause something to change just by thinking about it differently or seeing it differently? But to think that for you to take a relationship that whatever was going on with it, that maybe had some good, had some bad, but to have this new decision that you're going to see your partner in this new light, and that you're going to actually hold this perspective that is, you could take in the inputs of the relationship, like how he's shown up over the years, or the way he's reacts to you, or anything, right? And then you could make that mean something to you that would hold him in that picture. But you would decide consciously to change that picture and to hold him in a higher light, because almost like I do a lot of times when I talk to clients, where it's like they might be in their small story, I'm not buying it, right? I see their abundance. I see the success. I see them being really like happy, healthy, wealthy people. It's like holding that in a relationship. That's revolutionary. Like, I never heard of that. And you were the first person that ever brought that into my awareness. So I don't know if you want to share or talk about that, or if that brings up anything, but I think it's worth explaining that to people who are listening or watching.
Yeah, I think it's a real practice. So yeah, I mean, as you know, like for me, one of these things, getting to be really concise, is something that I really focus on, or I just naturally can get into flow and wordiness. But so let me think about how to be the most concise about this. There really is a similarity between, goals and what we want to create out in the world and what we want to create in a relationship. Ultimately, we're the ones that are in charge of what our internal stories are, or what we want to, it's not like we can control our thoughts. I'm not saying that thoughts speak, but we can be selective. We can, about the kinds of things that we want to entertain over time in our own minds. I understand there's some useful things that can bring us there to be able to be in that practice. And I want to make things as simple for the viewers as possible. But really, like, when we decide to change how we see something, we have the possibility to create a miracle in the situation. And, it may be the Course in Miracles that says, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to source it right now, that a miracle is a change in perception. So it's like when we change the way that we're seeing something on the outside, we're going to start to show up differently and act differently too. Yeah. So that is something that is going to tangibly affect reality. And then there is the whole quantum level, and that could be a whole long other conversation. I do want to say with this is that we're going to have some relationships that are just have an inherent more challenge than others. And one of the things that I've learned over time that was something that I really struggled with was boundaries. So it's like, even if we're changing the perception of somebody or seeing them in the higher light, it's really important for us to honor ourselves and our own boundaries. And be able to see all of that with discernment at the same time. So it's like we hold the person in the highest light while keeping the necessary boundaries so that we're honoring ourselves in the highest light, right? And then we're also practicing a level of discernment. If you think of it like in a business activity or something, you would have a level of discernment of like, oh, this person has shown me over time that they have this particular pattern related to communication or related to money or related to whatever else. And it's like, so I'm going to pay attention to that. I'm not going to pretend it's not there, but I'm going to see them in their highest light. And maybe I won't do business with them anymore, but I'll just see them in their highest light. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not like we're actually, controlling a situation or imprinting like a new destiny of like how somebody's going to act. Everybody has free will, so they get to choose how they want to show up in life. We're holding that higher possibility, and for ourselves to show up differently with that person, and for them to show up differently. And this is actually like a really solid spiritual principle. That would be a much longer conversation. I'm just trying to think if I could source something super quick to land that point. How different teachings and things like Kabbalah could Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, could point to this, but it's actually it does allow for the infinite possibility. Like, we want to be in possibility as much as possible. And when we have this fixed idea about somebody, that we're not an infinite possibility. And this is very valuable, I think, for relationships that have felt like a level of challenge for one reason or another. And they could be an ex because, maybe we met that person when we were really young, and then they evolved, and things that we weren't in resonance in the same way that we were before, or there's zillions of different ways in which relationships can feel like a level of challenge. But it's so interesting because I was just thinking and contemplating the other day about how there's this very famous story of David and Goliath, and how David, it really landed for me that like David wouldn't be David without Goliath. That sometimes even the challenging relationships make us even more into, they're here to form us into the person that we're becoming. So it's we even have a greater level of love, because it's I wouldn't even be this person if I didn't have some of the challenges that I've had and some of the relationships that were more challenging. And in the context of romantic relationship, you mentioned an ex, or, my ex-husband. I think the other thing that's so beautiful about this is that in romantic relationships, when we hold the person in their highest and best, it creates this kind of quantum field for them to show up that way. And like romantic relationship gets really juicy and like really incredible. People get all obsessed. I don't know if what words I can say on the podcast, but people get obsessed about things related to sexuality and related to like all these wants and desires there, and then related to like fulfilling certain needs and all of this stuff. And like romantic relationship can feel like really centered in like what I want sometimes. And like the juiciness that is in romantic relationship when you're like holding the possibility for the highest and best for both people is like mind-blowing. The level of connection, the level of what people can experience romantically, sexually, in terms of personal growth, business growth, all of this stuff, from just the simpleness of like being able to hold that person up high. That is really, really in that particular area. I think it can show up in ways that are so incredibly surprising, and delicious is the only word that I would say.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
well, we need to wrap up, but I do want to give the audience an opportunity to connect with you if there's some way that they can find you at least.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have some way for them to find you, but would love to know.
Yeah. So they could, I'm not very active on social media, but I do check messages through Instagram. So they could do, I'm Carrie Margaret Loves You on Instagram. So they could, message me that way. I'm going through sort of an evolution of my work in the world. So I have carriemargaret.com, but there's just, a form right there where they can contact me through the website as the new evolution comes. Awesome. Yeah. So that's the way they can contact me.
Love it. Love it. So Carrie Margaret.
carriemargaret.com.
Carrie Margaret Loves You.
It's carriemargaret.com for the website, and it's Carrie Margaret Loves You for Carrie Instagram. Margaret
Loves You. Awesome. Well, you guys heard it here on the Rock Your Gift podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure spending the time with you as normal. I loved it. So hope you guys got value. Make sure you like, you share, you comment. Let the world know about this. Subscribe if you haven't, and look forward to seeing you on the very next Rock Your Gift podcast. Until then, have a great one. Peace.